Good afternoon, classmates. ED608. I'd like to introduce you to my learning strategy for the week. It is the word wall. Using the word wall is going to be a great tool for students in all grades, to be quite honest, but especially in the elementary age children. The word wall begins like this. Throughout your classroom, you set up bulletin boards around the class. I'm demonstrating on my whiteboard, but you would label your bulletin boards A through Z, and then you would make spaces all the way down in order to have an A space, a B space, a C space, a D space, on through Z. The reason you'll use the word wall is you will be able to take content vocabulary, specifically any type of vocabulary, high frequency words, sight words that you want your students to have access to. So the word wall is you take those when you're going to be adding words throughout the school year. So on my example, I wanted to show you that I'm using the word wall through content of the history content. So for the 5th grade standard, the standard for 5th grade is that students will be able to learn different meanings of words and be able to recognize, and that's the ELA standard. And the history standard that we're using to integrate is the standard that asks students to be able to learn content on the Vietnam War and the Cold War. So what we would do is we would take the content vocabulary and we would ask students to recognize those, and then we would place them on our word wall. So one of the words for the history content would be, an important word would be analyze. So I've go ahead and written it, and I would put that in my A column. Another word that we've used was accounts. I would put that in my A column. Another content vocabulary we would use would be the Cold War. I would put that in my account in the C column. The word consequence, that would also be in my C column. Point of view, I would put that in my P column. And Vietnam War, I would put that in my V column. Now, again, the importance of the word wall, especially with this particular standard, is that students need to be able to have autonomy, especially in their writing. So let's say this 5th grade standard, I asked the students to write for me the consequences, the origins and consequences of the Cold War relating to the Vietnam War. So instead of them asking me every 5 minutes how to spell this word, what was that word you talked about, Miss Keith? What we would do is place these on our word wall. That way they can have, in their independent time, they'll just look up. I remember that word started with, and let's say I wanted to say a consequence of the Cold War was. I don't have to ask my teacher. I look up to my word wall, I find the word consequence, and I use it in my writing. Again, this is a great strategy. It's a research-based strategy that also lets us know that it enriches the classroom environment for students to be able to have this vocabulary around them at all times. The strategy that we'll use for this particular, the standard that we'll use for this particular strategy, again, was the ELA standard that asks for students to be able to give meaning, understand meanings to content vocabulary, and then the history standard would have been integrated with the content vocabulary that asks students to recognize and understand the origins and consequences of the Cold War, which is their 5th grade standard in Georgia. So use this, the word wall, great tool.